So I am Dr. Walton-Trujillo. I've been in imaging for 18 years, been in leadership in imaging for 15 of those years, slowly going up the ranks, and I work in education as well. One of the things that I am the most passionate about in our field in medicine is patient care. And patient care does not, for me, include the tech touching the patient. I've always firmly believed that biomed is as engaged in patient care and decision making for the department as the people who are, I hate this phrase, the button pushers of the department. Don't call them button pushers, they really don't like it. I think it's really accurate. Keep that in your pocket. So one of the things that I wanted to do as I was working on either my master's or my doctorate was find a way to better communicate how we get around that individual silos, those invisible walls between, okay, I'm the imaging department manager, I have to worry about my budget, I have to worry about my tax, I have to worry about my teams, I have to worry about my patient care scores, I have to worry about my equipment going down and the patients I have to reschedule and yada, 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 versus my biomed guys who were like, if they would just stop touching it, it would stop breaking. If they would just stop eating or drinking near my machine, not their machine, my machine, maybe they wouldn't be calling us at 2 in the morning going, the keyboard's sticky. We think the keyboard's sticky. So finding a way to get rid of those invisible walls and make us all realize that we are absolutely not just integrated, but it's a symbiotic relationship. So why embrace your geek? They don't make geekier people than me. There is no level of geekdom that I will not find a way to infuse in my department. And we're going to get to that because it's the fun part of my lecture, is just all the geeky stuff. But my goal is to integrate the analytics of biomed, what I get from my teams, with the needs of my department, and more importantly, to use that for future planning. Future planning from staff, future planning from KPIs that I have, future planning from equipment needs to service contract needs to where do I go next with my department? How do I grow? How do I meet my patient experience scores? Because all of that leads to reimbursements from my department and will allow me to grow. How do I make those conversations all happen together? And then the geekiness of the world. So this is what I mean by, embracing your geek. There's pretty much no cool geeky thing on there that I don't absolutely love just as much from one to another. From Marvel to Star Wars, Mandalorian, Harry Potter. The only thing that didn't make the picture on the wall was probably the fact that I totally dig Catching Fire. May the odds be ever in your favor. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Just know that you're not there. I see you. Not just I see you. I see you. See. But yeah, there's pretty much no geekiness. I can absolutely love Star Wars as much as I love Star Trek. Hunger Games. Thank you. That was the word. Okay, fine. We're about done, dude.
Oh, there we go. Good. Start?
No. So I use in my department something called an alignment board, something I've done in multiple departments throughout my career. And originally, I did it with the guise of making sure that I had great interdepartmental communication when I had multiple offices across a large city, 12 different offices. I needed to be able to make sure they were communicating together, where every tech on every shift had the communication of what was going on, not just in their bubble, but the bubble of their department, the bubble of their clinic, and the bubble of the overall organization. And that was the goal. The goal was, how do I make sure that there's no excuse for a lack of knowledge? Because I don't handle well that phrase, well, I just didn't know. That's on you. If all the information in the world is available to you, it is 100% on you. If I just didn't know is your response to pretty much anything. So that was the goal. It was, how do I make communication when it comes to departmental volume, quality projects, patient satisfaction, overall scorecards, how it affects the bottom line financially for the department, making that as incredibly transparent as I could, And then integrating biomed information into all of that. So I could start bridging that gap between those two departments. And it always became apparent to me when I would go to my COO, my CEO going, I need more staff. I need a newer CT scanner. I want to get them in to come in and to bring my CT down or my MRI down for however long it takes to find that problem that's intermittent, so that I know I have faith in my equipment, so I don't have to potentially reschedule patients. And then I would get sentences like the dreaded sentences: show me why you need another FTE, show me why you need a new scanner, you have one already. How do you justify the capital expense when you're asking for more when you're working with less? And then those wonderful annual budget defense questions. Because we're all making our budgets, right? And then we have to go defend those, and then those conversations will give me a good reason. I like hard data. I like numbers. I like the data of going, it's not just good for my patients, but here's the one. So the goal today is, how do I help you almost educate the managers that you're working with in your departments on creating this kind of thing, because that will in the end support your teams. So it's all about communication. I'm firmly that if you understand the why, it makes the how a lot easier to implement, a lot easier to understand. It's going to reduce the distance of the point of view from each of the participants when we do that. We're not looking at it from two different sides of the table. We end up being on the same side of the table. We end up having buy-in together for the process. And it's not just me going, no, you can do it, you can figure it out. So the stakeholders that we're going to worry about are our C-suite. We all have one: CEO, COO, CFO, all those executive decision makers. And then the boots on the ground, the other end of that spectrum, that frontline patient-facing clinician, or that department team member that your teams are interacting with. When they're going into the department to work on anything, they're dealing with their customer too, not just the patients, but that tech that they're working with, the one who's spilled soda all over the keyboard and CD. So this is a general idea of what that alignment board can look like. At the time, I was working in desert radiology when I did this project. And everything from what are the goals of the organization to how is the organization tracking it in the bigger picture, to what are we doing that affects those goals, and how am I tracking it? Because it's these here, how am I tracking it down to the big board, that is what I can bring into any meeting that said, this is why I can justify I need a new scanner, or I need a new probe, or I need a new, name it. So again, that 3 to 5 year strategic plan, our C-suite deliverables, the alignment goals for our department or our clinic, and then what we're doing to track it. So in this case, the organizational goals were sustainable growth, strong people systems, scalable tech and quality, operational excellence. And those are the overall general goals of the organization. And I guarantee you, if you look at your facility strategic roadmap, you will find something that matches something in here, because they're all generally the same. We want to grow. We want to create new business opportunities. We want to respond to what's going on in our markets and live our brand imaging. When we look at the way that organizations, how often do you guys get a chance to sit in with your C-suite when they're talking about their strategic planning?
They ask opinions, but I don't really sit in at this point.
Okay,
Twice a year.
twice a year. At budget time and, okay, where are y'all? You don't sit in on those meetings? Right,
I have in the past, not too new with the present.
with your current organization. They look at the numbers, they want to know about the metrics. They're all about where did we close the year last year? What's going to be our goal this year? What's our stretch goal? Every department has a stretch goal. When those meetings end up coming down to your level in your organizations, Are you giving goals like that as well? Here's what you did last year. Here's your goal for this year, and here's your stretch goal. But you set your own goals around that idea. Same thing, we're looking for year-over-year growth and find out from your training up to your C-suite. What's the organization's goals? What are we trying to accomplish in the big picture? When we understand what we're trying to accomplish, we know how more to meet that need within our departments. Strong people systems. Well, attaining and attracting talent. I've heard this morning that finding team members for your departments is difficult right now. Are you all feeling that? It is the Pope Catholic. So how are you then looking into succession planning? Replacing your team members as they are growing with the organization now and having to fill in those holes. And how are you giving them feedback? What is that work process with your team? How are you working with your individual team members for their growth? And then making sure that you're aligning and improving that communication, not just in the nuclear of your department, but across the walls of the building. For those places that have more than one office, like I believe you have more than one facility in your structure. And does anybody else have more than one facility that they kind of guide over? You have 3? Something that shows all the facilities, your 3, and if there's any other, if you have a counterpart that does your job along your organization, getting that data, giving them yours and getting theirs so that you can create some kind of tracking. In this case, it was individual clinics to know what the overall month-over-month is so that you can be able to set those comparisons and know what those KPIs are. And for tech, it's my favorite area. How are you creating high-value interfaces at every touch point of the connections between patients to my machines, my techs to my machines, and biomed to my machines? Because if my CT scanner is not spinning, and it's not making any money. It's that simple. And forget not making any money, I'm not taking any care of any patients. There are patients out there who are waiting for 6 weeks for an appointment because they couldn't get in because my scanner went down. One of my 2 scanners went down, which cut my schedule in half. That's not good patient care. And so I said, your work directly, completely directly impacts patient care. You may not be the one starting the line. You may not be the one positioning them in the room, but I guarantee you the work that you do touches every patient every time. There's no patient that comes into the hospital that you do not directly touch. Not one. Not even the family members of the patients, because they're sitting there watching the machines that your team is responsible for keeping moving on their family. And I guarantee if it was my grandbaby or your babies, you're directly engaged in that moment of patient care. Well, that looks really good on that big screen, doesn't it? Yeah, that's not attractive, is it? Well, it was supposed to say, which makes me terrified of what the future ones coming up are gonna look like. And in this case, this is about quality projects. How are we tracking quality projects? Whether it's each department and what are their failings? What are we working on? Whether it's how many times we had to call biomed during the week versus on the weekends. What shifts were they, morning or night? And tracking that, so I could then get that at the end of the month and take a look at it and go, you know what? I got that Susie who's a PRN, and I've looked back at my scheduling and she's worked 3 out of 4 weekends, and those happen to be the 3 out of the 4 weekends I'm having to call in biomed on the weekend in the middle of the night to help her. Maybe the problem is not the machine. Maybe the problem is Susie. Because I can track it and compare it, I can then guide education and get her help. Even if that means having her come in during the day when I'm not worrying about overtime costs or off-shift costs, because I used to have to pay for the off-shift costs if I was calling in biomed on a Saturday at 2 in. I fulfill from that in my department. So how do I control my costs? Well, let me get her in during the week, because it's not gonna cost so much, and get her some training. Have her sit down with the guys, some of the managers or some of the service guys over in biomed, and have them come in and sit with her and say, show me what you're doing. Let's talk it through. That's a pretty slide. I'm so proud. All right, so our KPIs, optimize the organizational design, allowing me to track things like when people are coming, when they're not. I can plan scheduling, I can plan knowing, if Susie's that problem, I'm gonna call my guy, the manager at Biomed and say, you know what? I'm having this problem. I have this particular tech. I know she's scheduled to work coming up on this weekend. Who do you have that's a great educator in your department? Let me try and schedule her when I know they're being scheduled, or we would work together on scheduling on who was covering that weekend. So if she was gonna call, I at least knew that the person she was gonna call was gonna be more useful for helping to educate the problem. I love a good chart. You wouldn't know by the way that. Oh, even prettier. This would actually just be how many times the wheel has spun in CT. Any of my different modalities, and month over month, how many procedures did I do? Just tracking them directly, whether I was tracking them through the schedule or whether I was at the machine pulling the numbers off the machine, because someone taught me once how to do that, huge mistake. But pulling every single number to know how many CTs did I do, how many MRIs, how many X-rays, how many ultrasounds in each specific machine. So if I've got 3 mammo machines, I want to know how many each one did. That also allows me to track revenue, track usage. Creating a chart like this for all 12 of my facilities allowed me to look at a big picture and go, who's scanning more, who's burning more hamsters in the wind. And then reporting out that volume for that sustainable growth, meeting that needs of that initial strategic planning. Because anything I can report out to my C-suite that matches the strategic plan means I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And clinic specific, having good charting. So I can say, in Nuke, for this room and that machine, I did, say in January, I did 87 studies. I did 100 in April. I can go through the list and go, you know what? For the year, I did 1115. The year before that, I did 1125. I did 10 more. So I can track month over month that I'm not only using my equipment, but I'm using it more than I did the year before, which means its life expectancy is dropping. And then patient satisfaction. How are we tracking the satisfaction of our patients with the work that we're doing? Because realistically, right now in medicine, we are being reimbursed for patient experience. 100%. Have the conversations around patient experience increased in your departments over the last year, 2 years? The topic is out there more?
So, if I can interrupt for a second. We recently had an experience where this department that always had perfect scores on their patient experience. They loved the text, the machine, the care they received, and we were able to trace the start of negative responses to surveys to the day that the machine started to break and tie those together.
Yep.
Which was really first time I've ever tied them together with the help of the leadership in the imaging department. But then I wonder, what can biomeds do to, aside from keeping it working, to impact likelihood to recommend?
How often, It could be as simple as how often are you how often are the PMs being done? Are we only doing PMs for the list? Or can you check your machines more often than that? Can a system be put in a place where you are checking the equipment more often than the standard request is?
Yes, but is there anything that the technician can do? Walking through the lobby, hello, patient number.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What, are there things that we could do as technical folks to help drive likelihood of repair
Likelihood of repair?
likelihood to recommend for our clinical staff?
Absolutely. Anytime, and there should never be a moment in patient experience. I don't care who you are, because the big thing about patient experience is when a patient who has no idea about medicine, who walk into a hospital or a clinic, no idea about medicine, they're just there for care, there is no connection between the four of you in front of you. You could be two providers and a nurse, a provider, housekeeping, biomed, the tech, the snot suckers in respiratory therapy, could be, it doesn't really matter. You are four people in the hospital, which means you're either all doctors or all nurses. Every single one of you, doesn't matter what you do, that's your role. Someone who has no idea about healthcare. They don't walk in going, oh, well, that is the nurse taking care of me, and that's the doctor, and that's housekeeping, and that's registration. They don't see it that way. That we are all a collective to take care of the one. With that thought in mind, that we are all the collective, get the board things. And make me happy. We are the board to take care of the one. Resistance is futile. So it doesn't matter who you are, I don't care what your job is. If you're walking down the hallway, or in the parking lot, or at the time clock, or in the cafeteria, or in the bathroom, washing your hands, say hello. How are you? Are you getting to where you're going okay? I know where I am in the hospital. I'm pretty good at finding my way around. You need any help? Can I get you a warm blanket? You all know where the blanket warmers are. You probably work on them. Can I get you a warm blanket? I may not be able to get you something to eat or drink because I don't know what you're here for, and they may have restrictions on whether you can eat or drink. Can I get you a blanket? Can I get you an extra gown so you have one like a robe and one that you're wearing? Tiny little things. Say hi to family members. That kind of thing is going to go the longest way towards patient experience scores. Hi, I'm Nick. I'm with the imaging department. How are you today? Those kinds of things are really going to go a long way. You walk by someone who's wearing a Marvel t-shirt and it's not like they're hot enough out there, even if it's a Wakanda shirt, go up and go, saw that movie, or you know what, that movie is really cool, but I love that scene in Winter Soldier where Captain America was holding a helicopter with his bicep. Engage. It takes 2 seconds to engage. 2 seconds. Those moments, that kind of a moment of, like I had with you a second ago with that one, Hunger Games. I don't know you forever because of Hunger Games. I mean, this is not a look that's easy to hide in a crowd for sure, but I will remember you forever for Hunger Games. And it was how quick did that connection take? A hot second. Hot second. But later on, when you go home and someone goes, how was your day today? Was it boring? Yeah, it was pretty boring. All day. Have a good story. Talk about Hunger Games. Good day. But it's those tiny little things that have nothing to do with the patient's health. Zero. Nothing. That is what affects likelihood to recommend clinic more than anything else. You're not going to be able to fix wait time at the clinic. You're not going to be able to fix billing or referrals, or how come I can't get my meds sent to Walgreens, and how many times do I have to go through the call center to get someone to answer the phone? That's not something you can do. But they'll remember someone going, did you hear her talking about the voice last night? And take in 2 seconds. Whatever your kingdom is. It could be RuPaul's Drag Race. I don't care. Pick a thing. But I do track patient experience, like every manager everywhere does. And right now, knowing that I can track this goal, and like you said, I can go right here and go, you know what? From August to September, I dropped from 93% to 91%. Why? And with the other tracking, I do look back and go, oh, because here's all the things that I send to my boss every month. I had problems with my department here with staffing, or I had problems with my CT scanner went down a lot. My MRI went down 8 different times within a week and a half. I can track it. Yeah, I bet you if I dig deeper now that I know where I'm looking, I can hop on to Press Gaming and do a report, run a report that will show me it was wait time in the clinic. And then I can dig deeper depending on how your access is with Press Gaming and know what department that wait time in the clinic happened. And here I have now more paper ammunition to answer that dreaded question. Why do you want a new scanner? Show me why you need one. You've got one and it's fine. And scalable tech. Reducing the patients initially attempting to check in at the wrong site. This happened to be just a project because patients are stupid. I don't care how many times you tell them. You're going to check in downstairs 20 minutes before your appointment. Check in upstairs. 5 minutes. Now this one now, this is the one that you can't see, but it's probably my favorite slide in the world. I would email it to you if you would like. It's like the original file. What this is this becomes a conglomerate of every single one of those tracking things that you saw. When I fill out one, it auto fills out this one as well, which is best. So not only can I keep volume up here for every clinic has one that shows how many procedures I did in what modality that month. Also shows me my revenue, expenses and revenue, so I can show how much money I made or didn't. But here, this right here is the bread and butter section. It is every single scanner, including its serial number, and its serial number with my biomed, not serial number with the organization, with, it's not GE serial number, it's what is the sticker that biomed put on it. And then it's downtime, hard time, and soft time. Every month. Hard time being that scanner is a paper bleed. Soft down means it's just the knee coil that's down. I can do everything but knees and MRI because that knee coil in room 2 is down. So I track that. And every single patient that had to be rescheduled or canceled because of that downtime is also tracked. So then I can run a number of how much money would my department have made if my scanner had been up to full capacity. This is done specifically so that I can then turn around and go, you know what? I have looked over the last 4 years, and every year my CT scanner is going down. They may have only had my scanner down for 15 minutes. The team may have come in, got me up and running in 15 minutes. They fixed it quick. These guys, they're doing their jobs. But my scanner is now 10 years old, and every year it's showing its age. Sorry, my birthday's tomorrow, and it's a big one, and it's ugly. We're mourning the passing of my youth. Please join me in the morning, it's tomorrow. But I can sit there and go, it's not biomed, because here's my call times. My tech reached out at this time. This is when they came out. This is when they had it fixed. It's not that, it's not this, just went down. So it's not a delay on our team, the overall team, y'all, us, everyone. It's not the team. The machine's just over 10 years old. I need a new scanner. And then I can take that to my boss and go, okay, here's the paperwork. When I say I want a new scanner, here's why. Here's where it went down. This is where we are. I worked with the guys at Biomed. This is where its end of life date is. I'm not there yet, but my scanner runs 24 hours a day. I'm doing more scans this year than I've done the last year and the year before and the year before. It's starting to feel its age. I've talked with Biomed and said, okay, we're running a GE scanner. What should I get instead? Or what are you seeing that's out there that I should get instead? Show me why. Well, now we're gonna look at getting a Siemens. And this is why we want to get Siemens. I talked with Biomed, and here's why they think this is a great plan. We have Siemens scanners in 4 of our other facilities. I can now then share parts. And I have all my documentation to go to my boss and go, when I say in my capital budget, I want a new CT scanner, I'm not just saying it because I want something pretty and shiny. I have paperwork. I dare you to ask me why, please. Please ask me why. I did a lot of work. I want to show you. They don't ask me why anymore. It makes me really sad. They're just like, okay. So here's my question for you guys. How often do you communicate with your department managers, your modality managers? What are you sharing with them? You know, we see you escaping. Yeah, we see you escaping. There will be homework. How do you share information with them, and what are you bringing to the table to help them make decisions? I'm an educator. I'll do it.
I don't really need to find what my department manager, but he's usually when they get mad when their equipment takes forever to get repaired. Then when I share the information of their equipment is changing, their end of life notifications. And that's about it. And then they want quotes and I get quotes. But I'm impressed with all your information
Yeah.
No, that's right.
and your stuff.
And you had, whew,
I work with most of my managers, and, you know, we go over things often, and I do make recommendations based on the manufacturers. I do the research kind of for them. Like she said, like assisting, gathering quotes and service contracts and, you know, all the other things that go along with, why would you want to purchase this piece of equipment? Obviously, sharing parts, you know, it's.
right, it's a big natural thing. What about things like working with your modality managers, or even just the text on the regular basis that says, I'm lazy, I'm sitting. I tell you my birthday's tomorrow, I'm really getting old, I'm very scared.
Almost 30.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm having fun with this. But what about your text? Like just your, not when something is down, but when you're going by, as a tech, who was a tech for a very long time, and you probably do it with your computers at home even. Something's not working right. It's a little thing. It's not a big thing. It's not enough to stop your day. It's certainly not enough to call Biomed and take the time it takes to get someone on the phone, put in a thing, to get them to come out, to take a look, to tell me something important. I already know something. So you end up just working with it. You work around it. It becomes your new work process to work around it, kind of like dose creep. We all hear about dose creep.
Honeydew lists.
Huh?
Honeydew lists.
Honeydew list, but even less than a honeydew list. It's almost it would be nice if I didn't have to click here before I click here. When I know I really should be able to click here first, but I'm gonna have to go out of the screen, go back into the screen another way, because I don't feel like dealing with me. Manager's not gonna know about that part. Modality manager might know about that, only if they're actually a working modality manager. But it's the text. It's the text that are gonna give you that real life, real time. Watching them work.
I make daily rounds unless I'm tied up. They know what I mean. If I'm not putting out fires, but I
Right.
think too, different levels, different scales. I'm dedicated to imaging. So I look at it now, for me, I'm coasting. I'm on the downhill side. It's like, I only gotta worry about what? That department and those equipment?
That's it.
I'm there, sweet, I'm there, and I'm surprised, because again, I'm only 2 months into it, but they're not used to that. And it's great. I have great people, great techs.
Yeah, but those
That's how you
little,
find out.
yeah, you're not gonna find out the little things unless your people are in the room with them. Even if it's just long enough to have the conversation, hey, how's your mouse working?
And that kind of response, again, I'm coming from rich. The VA is just rich. But all my stuff's pretty much under contract. I was lucky because I was in the area. I already know all my vendors. and they're used to me and I'm used to them, and we know how we work together and everything. And it pays off too, because when I'm making those rounds, like I had a call the other week, the bucky tray won't come out. Pick up the phone and call Siemens. I'll be right there.
Yeah,
I go
exactly.
and I look.
On the way.
It's a loose screw. I told them techs are allowed to have loose screws, machines are not.
Exactly.
That's it.
I have changed more light bulbs, more collimator light bulbs in my career. And I think, I know, like I said, I am just smart enough to be incredibly dangerous.
Okay.
I own screwdrivers. It's a bad idea. And a hammer.
And how's your light fuel alignment?
And what?
And how's your light fuel alignment?
It was lovely.
There you
Because
go.
once I learned how to do it, once one of my guys, once one of my biomed guys taught me how to do it at 2 in the morning in rural Ruidoso, when for me to call in service would take 4 to 6 hours
Oh, yeah.
to get someone out there. I had someone teach, one of my physicists taught me how to change a light bulb in there. And ever since that, I never ever called again.
Mhm.
I taught my techs how to do it themselves. And if I ever found out that they called service or they called biomed for a collimator light, I would lose my mind. We are busy, Miss Thing. We're busy. Whatever. Okay, fine. But
Mhm.
teach them those little things.
Oh, yeah.
It is everything to learn that stuff. Teach students. When you have students in the departments, I don't care whether it's imaging or not, I just happen to have an imaging background. Teach students too. Because then they grow up from being baby techs into techs who know how to change a light. When was the last time you changed a collimator light bulb?
Weeks back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Never?
No, I'm a third party biomed, so
Oh,
our imaging is with field engineers.
Learn. It's not that hard. Screwdriver, a couple screws, don't break the glass when it comes down. I'm telling you that now. You have to be really careful when that glass comes down because it's a moment. It's a real moment. It scares the snot out of you the first time.
I think
Don't
that's what it
touch
showed
the
me.
light bulb.
the hard
Oh, yeah,
part is
don't
learning how
touch
to-
the light bulb with the bare hand. That's a bad plan
Yeah,
too.
that's what it told me too, where actually this first call on the field engineer equipment.
Yeah, the hardest part will be learning how to do don't breathe, don't move, beat, make an exposure so you can do the light fuel. And all we do is beat.
We do a lot more than don't move.
Well, I used to.
Sometimes it's hold your breath.
Yeah. The next, don't breathe, don't move, beat, and we just make it beat. If it beats, I'm good.
So one of the companies I've worked with is MIS. I've done a lot of work with MIS over the years. They have been incredible for my knowledge base. And particularly when I started this project quite a few years ago, well, not when I started it, but when I got serious about using it as a, we could call it a tool, but more like a battering ram to my C-suite. Still a tool, right? Battering rams are tools. Yeah. Okay.
Maybe HR people are tools.
Yeah, they are. But I did a lot of work with MIS to figure out what did I need to get from biomed? What knowledge did I need to extract to integrate, to get my way? Which was really the whole goal, is how am I gonna get my way? I'm sounding like that. So I used them and we worked with them on how to get 222.25 hours of scan back time. And how to do that was everything from having PMs done in off hours. If an outpatient clinic was closed from 11 p.m. till 5 a.m., scheduling that's when all my service was done. All my annual checks, let's just, do a spot check on equipment. All of that stuff was done in non-patient time as opposed to patient time. That alone, with all the clinics, gave me back 222 plus hours. That's a lot of hours. It's a lot of patients. That's a lot of patient care. That's a lot of the ability to affect likelihood to recommend, access scores, the tech useful time for an FTE, not having departments paying for FTEs that aren't doing anything. Yeah, huge difference. Huge, huge, huge difference. Plus, more revenue means I could more effectively say to my C-suite, give me a new scanner. I'm making more money for the department. My office alone was making 2/3 of the income for the entire organization because I found a way. And I found a way to prove it month for month for a year. Now, give me another scanner. And let me stay open 24 hours a day. Let me justify more FTEs so I can be the only clinic that's open 24/7, outpatient. But you gotta have the background, you have to have your numbers to be able to make that call. Or it's just, oh, that sounds good. We can't afford to hire new staff. We're in a hiring freeze.
I do the 24 hours. I had to put in.
I had all the numbers approved. I had all the numbers approved that I could meet, that I was able to do it. This is Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a 24-hour city. So whereas most departments would do, again, imaging is my background, studies on patients that have to be NPO for 8 hours before they can have their scan. Most of those kinds of studies are only scheduled in the mornings, early in the morning, from like 6 to 10 a.m. In a city like this, they're really scheduled any time of day because you have people who are working graveyards or swing shifts at casinos or whatever, and then they are then doing that, they've slept during the day, so they're doing that contrast study in the evening. Being able to get a radiologist to let me use him as a guinea pig to schedule him to do those kinds of studies in the evening and in the morning is not easy. A lot of Starbucks and a lot of Chick-fil-A. A whole lot of Chick-fil-A. But I talked him into doing it for me for 2 weeks, opened up my schedule, filled him instantly. It wasn't even, and within 24 hours of opening the schedule, I had 2.5 weeks booked solid. Once it became available in the template for them to be scheduled, they were taking it. Which means I needed to have staff to handle it. And then I was able to, with the current staffing I had, stretch them out. It was a painful couple of weeks, but I stretched my schedule and I put in all the floats that had to get booked anyway somewhere. I was bringing them in to run those nights to show that it could be marketable. And then I found a way to run the scheduling where it could be, although I had to hire some FTEs, I didn't have to hire as many as they thought it would take. I didn't have to double my staff.
I have an ultrasound done staff. Which next day, and then when I called it, to schedule it, he said, so the only thing we have available is 1:30 in the afternoon. Go across town.
Mhm.
I wanted to go somewhere in Henderson. And it was Friday.
Yeah.
Very worth it. I mean, you figured there would have been like opening.
Yeah, they're just, this city does not have a lot of late night services for outpatient. So it was a matter of putting in the work to make it, to prove the viability. But that also had to prove I had to have viability with access to biomed at all hours. Without that contract being painfully changed. But you can get with, I'm sure MIS is not the only company that has a version of this at this point. And there are just ways of tracking downtime, tracking usage, tracking. The definition of downtime is very different. To me, downtime is the second my tech realizes that machine is not working and that patient has to wait. That's the minute the clock starts. When they call to say, hi, I have a problem, I can't get this to work, is the second downtime starts. Not when they came to the department, looked at the problem and went, yep, you're right, it doesn't work. That is not the same time. We've had 15, 20 minutes of you walking down the hall that I was still not working. That was 2 patients I could have seen in CT that I lost. So making sure that we could change that, adjust that definition till we had an agreement on the vocabulary of downtime was a big deal. Do you have to deal with downtime with your leadership teams?
We do.
In what way?
Well, just in every facet, if something goes down, you have to make the decision, you know, like, can you get somebody in, get biomedic, can you get imaging, we have an imaging group as well.
Mhm.
Can you get them in? Depends on, like you say, if it's a simple repair, we just go with that right away. Other than that, you know, if it's something more complex, you know, tubes or whatever, you know, you're down, you know, you gotta do the best you can do for a smaller facility.
Who defines downtime?
Department heads generally, because they're the ones that track it.
Patients define downtime.
So you-
Because it's gonna affect your patient experience scores. And those patient experience scores are gonna affect the reimbursement.
8%.
That's a huge number.
8.
It's massive, just massive. Particularly when you are considered a non-revenue generating department. Because what are you supposed to do about that? Being nice people in the hallway. Telling you warm blankets go really long. So I would take their software and compare it to my metrics to make sure that we were on the same page. And if I disagreed, I told them they were wrong until they fixed it. So that I could make sure that metrics matched. Because I couldn't afford to go to my boss and go, hi, here are our downtime numbers. Here's the revenue that we lost. Here are the amount of patients I could have taken care of in that window. And then go, but here's the numbers from our service provider. And they said, this is what you were really down.
You're up 99%.
So I'd argue with them first,
Up and down are two different terms.
right?
No. Uptime is useless.
And that all relates to the wait time, how long it takes to make an appointment. Depending on the modality, this is also a really important thing to track. This is a great way also to prove you need another scanner. If patients are having to wait 43 days for a mammogram, it's a long time when you're diagnosed, or when you think you might be diagnosed.
Stat, like I had.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had to wait the whole day and then go across town and then still could have gave a bad, had a good experience. But when you get there at 1:30, nobody in the lobby. And you get called in right away like that, and then you get done, there's nobody waiting in the area where the ultrasound's at.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you wonder, am I gonna have to wait till 1:30?
And yet somebody next to you would have said, you know what, I had the best experience. I got there, I got checked in right away, they saw me right away, I left right away. It was fabulous.
And that's what happened. That's how my experience.
And that was your experience, but you had that long drive to get frustrated.
Yeah.
You walked in the door already giving them a negative score. And they get, even with the most perfect example of what you could do for a patient, it's not enough to fix that score. Because you already got up and had a bad moment just driving down the road going, I should not have to drive 45 minutes beyond the strip just to get across town. Stupid scan. I didn't even want it in the first place. It's gonna be awkward.
Yeah, many other buildings around in this whole.
How many of their offices can I drive by?
Yeah.
How many ultrasound machines can I drive by between my house and there?
In the hospital I worked at.
So yeah, I'm a geek. I don't hide it. I use my love for Star Wars and Disney and Star Trek and Harry Potter. I use my powers for evil. I found a way to apply my geekiness to team building within my department to help reduce those invisible walls. Because if you think we have an invisible wall, just imaging and biomed, even inside imaging, we have stupid English, invisible walls. Mammo doesn't want to talk to CT, doesn't want to talk to MRI, doesn't want to talk to X-ray. They're their own little silos. Nuke and PET,
Like that with them, so I don't know too.
probably.
You guys check one over here, check me over here. I want to do that check.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be.
And yeah, that is my office with my at my mouse droid and my keyboard. So there's pop quiz. What's that?
Those are the 4 houses in Harry Potter.
I'm so proud of you too. I can't stand myself.